Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're talking about that moment, that real high point in a startup's life. You've just signed a term sheet with an investor. Huge excitement, right? Feels like the money's practically there, a massive milestone. But like in any good story, there's often a bit of a twist or maybe a hurdle, something that can genuinely make or break the deal closing. It sounds serious and, well, it is important. It's a critical part of actually getting that funding finalized. So for this deep dive, we're focusing on some essential insights on due diligence, drawing from Welcome Wadhwani Expert Insights.
Exactly. And our aim today really is to help you understand how to navigate this whole due diligence process smoothly. We want to share some practical tips, things you can do to prepare, hopefully helping you close those funding rounds faster, less stress, more progress.
Okay, let's start right at square one then. A lot of founders probably wonder, what is due diligence, really? And why is it even needed? I mean, think about it. The investors already looked at your business model, your team, the product, the market, unit economics. They're convinced enough to sign a term sheet. So why this whole extra layer of checking? What else could they possibly need to know?
That's a really common question, and it's fair. Due diligence, it's basically an intense look at your company, but through a very specific legal and compliance lens. Operational integrity, too, and why it matters. Well, things like non-compliance, maybe past mistakes, or even just not having the right documents filed. These can hide some pretty significant liabilities. Take Provident Fund compliance here in India, for example. It's a mandatory retirement saving thing. If that hasn't been handled correctly from day one, maybe for all your employees, it can lead to some hefty penalties and debts later on. And investors, they're putting money in for growth, right? For expansion, new hires, marketing. They definitely don't want their investment immediately getting used up just to settle old fines or liabilities. Imagine, 20% of your Series A just vanishing to clear up past issues.
Wow, okay. Yeah, that really puts the risk into perspective. So it's about uncovering those hidden financial bombs, essentially. Are there other reasons for doing it, other objectives?
Oh, absolutely. Another big one is simply verifying the facts. Everything you presented during the pitch, during their evaluation, they need to confirm it all. We're talking revenue numbers, costs, margins, customer details. They double check everything. Ultimately, the goal for them is to figure out, is this really the solid deal it looks like, or could it turn into a costly mistake because something wasn't quite right? And usually this whole check is done by specialists, a law firm, and an accounting firm that the investor appoints, independent eyes.
Okay, right, specialists. So let's unpack this a bit more then. What exactly are they looking at? What gets checked?
Generally, they focus on four main risk categories. You've got compliance and legal, finance, HR, human resources, and intellectual property or IP.
Four areas, okay.
Yep. So for compliance and legal, they're looking at all the official stuff. Ministry of Corporate Affairs rules, regulations, filings. Basically, is your company set up and running legally as a private limited entity? All that paperwork. Then finance. This is a deep dive into your past financial records. They'll scrutinize revenue streams, your costs, who owes you money receivables, and who you owe money to payables. Plus, they do really detailed checks on tax payments and filings, direct taxes, indirect taxes, the works.
Makes sense. Financial health check. What about HR?
HR is crucial. They look closely at your key employees, salaries, any bonuses, promises of stock options, or ESOPs. They check appointment letters and whether relevant labor laws apply and are being followed. And here's a common slip-up for early-stage companies. Hiring people with just a quick email confirmation, maybe even just a phone call.
Oh, I can see how that happens in the early rush.
Exactly. But what's really expected, what the due diligence team looks for, is a proper employment contract. And that contract needs specific clauses. Things like non-compete, confidentiality, clear termination terms, and, really importantly, who owns the intellectual property created by the employee. If those contracts are missing or maybe incomplete, the agency will definitely flag it. They'll tell you, hey, you need to get these drafted and signed. And doing that under pressure, well, it can really slow down getting investment closed.
Right, scrambling for contracts sounds stressful. Okay, and the last one. Intellectual property.
Yes, IP.
Hmm?
And look, every single business has some kind of IP. If you're a tech company, it's often your code. Product company could be your design, pharma, formulations. And beyond that, your brand name, your website URL, that's all part of your company's identity, it's IP. So the due diligence exercise checks all the relevant filings and agreements to make absolutely sure that the ownership of all this IP legally belongs to the company. Not to an employee, not to a third-party vendor you use, not even to one of the founders personally.
Ah, okay, so ownership has to be crystal clear.
Crystal clear. And here's a simple, super common example. A founder buys the company's main domain name, maybe from GoDaddy or somewhere similar, using their personal credit card. Technically, in that situation, the founder owns the URL, not the company. There's a problem. The company URL, like all key IP, must be owned by the company itself. Avoids huge headaches later, especially during, say, an acquisition.
Wow, yeah, that GoDaddy example really highlights how small details can matter hugely, it sounds like.
Well, it sounds like a lot to manage. So for a founder gearing up for funding, what does this all mean practically? How do you even begin to prepare for this without just getting buried in paperwork? That's the key question, isn't it? And look, it sounds daunting, but it's manageable if you're strategic about it. Think of getting a due diligence checklist, which you can often get examples of, like getting the questions before an exam, like prelims before the finals. They're basically 3 simple steps to get ready. First, create a deal room. This is just a secure online space, maybe using Dropbox, Google Drive, whatever works. Set up folders based on that checklist. Folder number 1 for your incorporation certificate, folder 2 for something else, and so on.
Okay, digital filing cabinet, makes sense.
Exactly. Step 2, start uploading the documents into the right folders. Incorporation certificate goes in folder 1. Easy. Step 3, just keep doing that for every item on the checklist. And, this is important, track the status. Maybe mark each item as done, in progress, or to do. It's totally okay if something isn't ready yet. Just note it, work on getting it, and then update the status. It helps you see your progress.
And track what's missing.
Precisely. And one really vital piece of advice here, be transparent. Don't try to hide anything you think might be a problem. Trust me, the due diligence teams are good. They will find it eventually. Transparency is just fundamental in the investor-founder relationship. It builds trust.
It's funny because you get so focused on the pitch, the vision, the numbers. It's easy to think signing the term sheet is the finish line. But actually, talking to experienced founders, the ones who've done multiple rounds, they often say this preparation part, getting ready for D&D, is the most critical step. They literally call it make or break.
They're absolutely right. You basically face a choice, right? 2 paths. Option 1, be reactive. You wait until after the term sheet, you get hit with this massive checklist, panic sets in, you start running around like crazy trying to find documents from years ago, and the whole funding process gets delayed, sometimes by weeks or even months. It adds a lot of friction.
Yeah, sounds like chaos. What's option 2?
Option 2 is proactive. You get hold of a typical due diligence checklist now, maybe even before you start seriously pitching investors, and you start organizing. The goal is to be DD ready ahead of time. It shows investors you're not just a great visionary, but also organized, professional, reliable. It smooths the whole path.
Be prepared. Okay. So let's say you go through all this. The lawyers and accountants do their digging. What's the actual outcome? What happens at the end of the due diligence process?
Well, like we said, the whole point is to evaluate the deal from that legal, compliance, and financial angle. It's about finding any hidden skeletons, right? Things that could blow up into big liabilities later. And remember, investors want their money fueling growth, not paying off historical mistakes or non-compliance issues. So the outcome is usually presented as a report, often highlighting a list of red flags.
Red flags. Okay. What happens then?
It depends on the severity. If there are major red flags, something really serious like clear evidence of fraud by the founders, then frankly, the deal is almost certainly off, called off completely. But in many cases, maybe most cases, the red flags are more minor, things that can be fixed. In that situation, the company is usually given some time, maybe before closing or sometimes just after, to take corrective actions, to get things in order. It's also worth mentioning the intensity of DD can vary. Angel stage due diligence, for instance, is usually not quite as deep as for, say, a Series A round.
Why is that?
Mainly because very early stage companies just have less history, right? Fewer employees, simpler operations, less data to actually scrutinize. But by the time you're raising a Series A, you likely have customers, a bigger team, more complex operating history. So the due diligence becomes much, much more intensive, more to check.
Right. That makes sense. The more complex the business, the deeper the dive. So understanding this, preparing for it, it's clearly not just a box-ticking exercise. It sounds absolutely fundamental for any startup looking for investment. Being ready seems like it can really make the whole journey smoother, faster.
It really can. And what's quite fascinating when you think about it is how these seemingly small operational details today, getting that contract right, filing that form correctly, can have such a big long-term impact years down the line.
Yeah.
Affecting valuations, exit opportunities, everything.
That's a powerful point. So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is this. How might focusing on getting these details right now, your compliance, your HR paperwork, your IP ownership, how might that not only save you from those costly red flags during fundraising, but actually help you build a stronger, more valuable, more resilient company overall, even long before you're thinking about that next investment round? Something to definitely consider as you build. Are you DD ready?